Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands. True School Sports subscribers. Now, Anthony Joshua, heavyweight boxing talk. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I was reading something, and he was talking about how he was talking not so much of the marquee guys at the top of the division that he might fight, but he was talking about more like the the younger crop of guys and just where he sees them in a couple years and if he might fight them and things like that. He pretty much just talks about the lower part of the heavyweight landscape. So he was talking about how he was drawing parallels to building an all-time great legacy, comparing it to the likes of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and he was kind of comparing it to what he's kind of going through right now. Because if you look at like Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker, beyond that, there really is not a ton of names, but there's those guys that just turned pro from the Olympics last year, like Daniel Dubois, Tony Yoka, Joe Joyce. Those guys that people are going to want to see him fight years down the line. So here's what he said in regards to that. He said, I quote, "You have to remember that Frazier was a gold medalist. Ali, Foreman, they were all peak level fighters of the era, and they all came together and ended up fighting each other. It seems we don't have that right now, but Joe Joyce has just turned pro, Tony Yoka too, so there's a new wave coming through. In 3 years as a pro, I've managed to catch the attention of the division, and I'll definitely give all these guys the opportunity to come and challenge for the belt." He then goes on to talk about Daniel Dubois, who's always an interesting topic of conversation with him because I believe it was last year, there was a bunch of rumors going around that the young heavyweight Daniel Dubois knocked him out in sparring. And then, you have his promoter, Frank Warren, who's hyped him up and called him the most powerful heavyweight from the UK in like the last 30 years, 20 years since Lennox Lewis. So with that being said, obviously people are going to, as Dubois, the more he moves up the ranks, the more people will talk about that matchup. And right now, Dubois is like 5-0. He's won all of his fights within 2 rounds via knockout. So, that fight realistically is probably another 3 to 4 years away, unless they really fast track him. And he's fighting like 10 times a year, which I doubt he'll fight 10 times a year. So we'll have to wait and see there. He has to get the right experience before he fights a guy like Joshua. But Joshua, in regards to that, he said, in regards to Dubois, he said, will my path cross with Dubois? Yes. All heavyweights have an opportunity to make a big play in the division. He'll be a player amongst the rest, and I will fight him at some stage when he decides to move up. How can I say? He has people guiding him, so it's kind of their choice. How many fights has he had? 3 or 4? He's a long way off. If a fighter wants a sprint, he can go all guns blazing, but they don't last long. I was watching a documentary, and I saw Klitschko when he got beaten. But where are the guys who beat Klitschko? You don't hear of them, do you? How long do you prolong a career or your legacy? You can't rush. I know what Dubois will do. It's up to them whether they'll put him on a 100-meter course or 400-meter track, and they create a career and legacy for him. So that's what it is, man. I find this kind of interesting because right now in boxing, Anthony Joshua at heavyweight, he's the man. And, he's going to have those big fights with Wilder and Parker at some point. And then, if he's able to do that, even if he's not able to do that, if he's still a big player in the division when Yoka and Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, as these guys come up and start challenging for titles, he's going to have to fight these guys. And I think, this is something that as boxing fans we should look at, and we should actually be interested in that because Yoka, I'm not going to say act like I know a lot about Joe Joyce or Tony Yoka. I just know whatever I've heard and from Mr. Boxing Today and what I've seen in like a couple clips here and there. But I know about Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois can fight, and he's got lots of potential. He's just got to get the right experience in the pro ranks. So I think that'd be a good matchup in the future. But can Joshua build an all-time great legacy with the current crop of heavyweights? I believe so, because in many ways the Klitschko fight was like that legacy fight for him. Like he had like the 19th fight. You're fighting an all-time great. Yeah, he was past a little bit, but he still had he had enough left in the tank to give this guy a hard fight. And it was the type of fight that, if he never has another like fight of the year candidate type of fight, he still had that signature fight in his career. So I think he can because everybody, there's always fighters that emerge every couple of years. And right now, you're looking at him, you're looking at his career, Joshua, that is, and, Wilder's that guy he's got to fight. And then Parker's not too far behind him. But then after that, it's like, okay, who is there? And then you look at, he can fight guys who are contender level fighters, but I think one of those three guys will eventually cross paths with him, and it'll be a big fight. So, yeah, do I think he can build an all-time great legacy with this crop of heavyweights? Absolutely, because number one, I think part of being a great heavyweight fighter is not just what you do in the ring, um, and how good you look and how great you fight, but I think a lot of it is like, can you captivate the people's imaginations? Kind of like the Alis and the Holyfields and Mike Tyson's, and I think Joshua has that element to him. I think when you look at what he's been able to do in the UK with, um, just like his fights, how much people come to his fights. He put 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium. He's fighting now at Principality Stadium in Wales, which, if you guys don't know, it's a huge stadium. In soccer, like they have the Champions League, which is like the biggest. It's basically like the Super Bowl of soccer, and they had the final was at Principality Stadium, and it's like 80,000, 90,000 seats. So it's big. He's the kind of fighter now that from this point forward in his career, he's not going to be fighting in arenas. He has to fight in stadiums because the demand is that high. And I think for him, like, the next step is to bring him over to America, and then, like, when you bring him here, then kind of just build him up here, and eventually he'll be a world-renowned star, and he's got to keep winning. So I think he's good for boxing. I think he's a tremendous fighter. I think there's still things he can improve on, but absolutely, the answer is yes. He can build an all-time great legacy, as any fighter can. Look at Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes didn't have a tremendous amount of guys to fight in his era that were like great fighters, but he had, he fought the Jerry Coonies, he fought Leon Spinks, Ernie Shaver. So there were still guys there that made for great fights. They just maybe weren't the all-time greats. But in every era, you only get so many all-time greats. That's just the nature of the sport. Some guys are more fortunate, like Muhammad Ali, had got the chance to fight multiple all-time greats. Anthony Joshua might be lucky if he fights one, but that doesn't mean just because he only fights one all-time great that he can't still carve out an all-time great career for himself. So just wanted to get that out there. He was talking about it, just talking about the landscape of the division and comparing himself to those guys. And that's what it is. So you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.